Planning your destination wedding and unsure how long your guests are going to stay? Let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Jack with Vacationese, and the question of how long do you plan the core stay for your guests has popped up over the past couple weeks with people I've been talking about. So let's really talk about how you plan that. For you as the bride and groom, you're probably going to stay 5, 6, 7 days. As you know, many of the resorts are going to require you to be there 3 business days prior to your wedding date, no matter whether it's a symbolic or a legal wedding. So for you, most of our clients, as brides and grooms, are going to be there 5 to 7 days at the host resort. Now let's talk about your guests, because as you know, in working with your travel planner or the resort, you're going to do a room block. And when you do the room block, you have to allocate the arrival date and what you perceive to be the final date or the checkout date. You can flex them, and we can always request more dates, but up front, it's really, really good to get a good set of dates. Now, people are asking me, Jack, how long are people going to stay? So I think there's a couple of variables on that. The first thing is, where is your wedding, where is the destination, and where are your guests flying from? So here's an example. If you're in the New York area and your wedding is going to be, let's say, Cancun, well, there's nonstop flights. Most people try to plan a wedding over a weekend, and I would say that the majority of guests we see coming on a nonstop flight are going to be 4-night stays. Now, if, let's say, you're planning a wedding in Cancun or Punta Cana or Jamaica, and a lot of your guests are coming from Seattle or someplace on the West Coast, and all of a sudden they may have to have a connection or a 5 or 6 hour flight, then we may see a bunch of 5-night stays. So I think you really have to look at, when you plan your wedding, where it is and where the guests are coming from. And I think that's what your travel planner, someone like us, is going to help you plan and determine what that core stay. And we call the core stay kind of what we're going to publish on the website that we build for you as when we think the majority of your guests are going to stay. And again, there's flexibility that if people want to come early, come later, wiggle the dates, but we really do need to have what we call that core stay. Now, the other thing you want to look at is the resort. We try to look at resorts that have a bunch of stuff for people to do to keep your guests busy all day long, all night long, as well as your wedding events. So that there's no reason for someone to look at the resort and say, this is a boring resort, there's nothing to do, I'm only going to come for 2 or 3 or 4 nights. We want them to stay as long as possible for you. Now what you should know is that most resorts do have a 3-night stay minimum on the contract. So that everybody's going to have to stay 3 nights, and if you look at your perks are going to say 3-night minimum stay. Now if you have a priest or a DJ or somebody that only can come for 2 nights, we can get a rate, it's going to be high, and they will not count to your perks. The other thing you have to look at in planning this core stay is, what are the wedding events you're going to have? So as an example, we do a lot of Indian weddings and Nigerian weddings. So they will have 3 or 5 cultural events. So they could have 3 days packed full of events. With those weddings, we typically see 4 and 5-night stays again. So that you really need to look at, if you're planning your wedding and you want to have a welcome party, a reception, ceremony, cocktail party, you're going to obligate your guests for 2 nights already, right? So you really need to think about, okay, so we want to do 4 nights then, because we want to give our guests multiple days to do things on their own versus just coming to our events. Look, here's the reality. If you're working with a travel professional that is focusing on destination weddings, we're all going to pick amazing resorts. They're going to have 5 to 7 restaurants, bars all over the places, plenty of activity. And the last thing we ever want to hear from a guest is, well, I was at that resort, but I never had time to do anything on my own. I saw all these amazing restaurants, but I couldn't eat there because I only came for X number of nights. So I really think that you need to take all of this into account when you plan the core stay. Talk with your travel professional. I will tell you, after I spoke to a couple clients about the subject recently, I called a couple competitors who I'm friendly with, and I said, what are you seeing that your average stay is for your weddings? and I looked at ours over the past couple years. What I will tell you is we are saying that our average stay is 4 to 5 nights, no matter what, for Cancun, Punta Cana, Jamaica. It doesn't matter where people are coming. But I really think the fun of the destination wedding is, attending your events and hanging around with this group of people that you care about and care about you. And someone coming for 3 nights really isn't going to have the opportunity. They're really going to miss out on this once in a lifetime occasion you have. So that these are just my thoughts, but again, what we are seeing is 4 to 5 nights on average is what people will stay for a beach-oriented destination wedding. As we look at further places like Hawaii and Europe, we're seeing 5, 6, 7 nights. With our cruise weddings, it's whatever the ship is. So a lot of the times the ship is a 7-night cruise. We're seeing that we don't really do a lot of 4-night cruise weddings. We'll do a couple 7 nights. Again, the cruise weddings tend to be a little bit more rigid, so it doesn't give people the accessibility to customize. So hopefully this is helpful. 4 to 5 nights is my answer, is what we usually see, and hopefully that'll help you plan. Also, selfishly, think about this. Every one of the wedding contracts we see recently has perks for you, the bride and groom. Those perks are based upon room night production. So you want your guests staying more and more and more, not less and less and less, because there's more in it for you as the host, the bride and groom. Thanks for watching the videos.